Well, it seems like the mighty oak is about to step in and help Bocksa and his friends to teach him everything he knows. Maybe the less overt parts though. Hey folks, MasakoX here. When it comes to the idea of Goku landing somewhere else other than Mount Paozu, it certainly sparks a lot of discussion within the Dragon world. To stop and look at this from another angle, you definitely have some interesting thought experiments going on here to be had. Think about it, I mean, come on. If Goku had just been 1 minute later or 1 minute sooner than he had landed in the original story, he might have ended up somewhere else entirely, like another continent, another town. Grandpa Gohan may not have found him, and the babe might have been all on his lonesome even. Would he survive? Well, I mean, probably, since I would imagine the pods would have some sort of Saiyan life support for the infants in case they ended up somewhere isolated from anyone else. But anyway, I digress. The point is that the Saiyans could have wound up anywhere, and in this story, he did end up somewhere else altogether. Instead of the quiet, calm forests and wilderness of Mount Paozu in that area, he landed in the middle of the city, in Capsule Corp's backyard, and into the care of Dr. Briefs, as well as becoming the youngest of 3, Bulma and Tights being his bigger sisters. How would a life of living in a world full of engineering, the hustle and bustle of the city, as well as science, change his life? Goku, first off, is not his name. That's Bocksa, as we all know, as in boxer shorts. It all changed with this Capsule Corp influence, with the good doctor very keen to not leave any stone unturned to let his adopted son know exactly where he came from, so he was in no doubt about his origins and would appreciate his own value and identity. And also, it helps when it comes to being transparent later on. You don't have that awkward but narratively compelling tidbit later on in the story that you oh so often see in fiction. You don't see, "Well, Bocksa, there's something we have to tell you." That's not going to happen here. But aside from that, we had Bocksa and Bulma getting on famously, with them still finding Master Roshi, as well as picking up Krillin, Launch, and even a much younger Hercule, or better known back then as Mark, since that's his real name, he hadn't come up with a stage name yet. Together, they all got strong with the help of Kame House, and won tournaments, and even took it to the Red Ribbon Army. However, this did mean that the young engineer Saiyan wasn't quite as strong as he was when he just focused on the fighting in the original. In the last part, the demise of Dr. Gero left a mark on his son Gearbo, the facsimile of Android 16, and he had slunk off into the wilderness afterwards. He would then later emerge when the Red Ribbon Army collapsed underneath all of its own bluster, and a Commander Red who turned tail and ran, as well as a Blue with his tail between his legs, bringing the remaining scraps of Gero's research in his wake. Together, they would rebuild and get their revenge, but not for many years yet. As far as you're concerned out there, they're out of the picture for a very long time. They're not going to bother our heroes. As far as the heroes are concerned, they're gone. Our heroes were gathering the Dragon Balls to ensure that the now deposed army would not get their hands on them. General Blue had been more merciful in this story, and had also been spared the wrath of Tao's tongue. So at last, for our heroes, there was a true sense of satisfaction, as well as feeling superior. Lately, they had felt very weak and unable to do much, but now, things were on the up, things were changing. The Red Ribbon Army had fallen, and our heroes were now on top. They could now also revive all of the victims of the dreaded organization. Thanks to the Dragon Balls now having no other seekers, they were unopposed. When they had been able to enact said wish, the gang decided that the time was right to get some rest and relax for a while, separately. Mark and Miguel went back to the city. That would one day be renamed after him, but for now, they got to spend some time together, despite her busy schedule. When she had been released from capture, her agent was thrilled to see her to make bank. She had to make a very frantic tour around the continent to remain relevant. But also she had a good tragic backstory behind her, a sad story for any kind of documentary. But her agent capitulated enough to allow Mark to tag along, so long as he made himself useful. And he did. He could often be seen carrying stage equipment and rubbing up the teamsters and roadies along the way, something awful, because he alone could carry what would take 5 men to carry. He was very efficient, and her agent liked that. But Miguel couldn't help but be admiring of his strength. But this did lead to some very comical moments, where he would be distracted by her beauty, and then just drop things on his head. But either way, they were happy. One day, Bocksa gave Mark a call when he and Miguel weren't touring, and they hatched an idea. He thought that now it might be the right time to start preparing their training for the upcoming 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament. Mark remembered the contest very well, and it hadn't taken place yet. There was actually loads of time, and since things had calmed down a bit, they could easily find some time in their schedule of saving the world from the Red Ribbon Army to have some fun fighting other people, as well as maybe even getting some prize money along the way. Now, Bocksa doesn't really need to worry about money, but so long as it makes Mark happy, he doesn't mind. And when Bocksa told the others and then his master about the idea, the old man also thought that it was a right thing to do, to see how much they'd progressed since the last one. But instead of doing the standard regime that they had been used to, Roshi offers up an interesting way of training that he feels might be more suitable and interesting for his new, stronger pupils. He invites them to journey to his sister, Fortuneteller Baba, and find out what she has in store for them. "I'll guarantee you, it's out of this world." They didn't realize that statement would be literal. Upa decides to tag along with the team once he had found out about the tournament, and also he just liked hanging out with them. And Bocksa was very keen for him to do so, to have more people join their posse. And so, the team consisting of Bocksa, Bulma, Krillin, Yamcha, Poir, Oolong, Launch, Mark, and also Miguel, who he's now guarding, they also plan to deliver to the closest city afterwards, and Upa all head for the desert. At first, the siblings of Bocksa and Bulma bicker for a little bit on their journey because it's in the desert and it's really, really hot. But Roshi is able to convince her as Baba realizes that her fighters could use some training themselves. First up is Fangs the Vampire, and he fights Krillin. Now, don't worry, Krillin isn't being left in the dust here. This time, the encounter is much more even, but Krillin is able to do one better and launch himself into the air and defeats the creature with a powerful Kamehameha. Everybody is very happy to see Krillin excel at this, and this will do wonders for his confidence going forward. Next up is the See-Through Invisible Man, who is now fighting Yamcha. The desert bandit uses his sense of smell to hear the fighter, which takes that by surprise. The Invisible Man does his best to try and skate around Yamcha's heightened nose because he's still invisible, but it's not enough, and he now regrets not taking a bath that morning. Yamcha is then able to launch a few well-timed Wolfang fists and knocks the invisible individual out of the ring. 2 for 2. The next opponent is Bandages the Mummy, who gets challenged by Launch. The Bandage Warrior does try to ensnare Launch with his native tendrils, naturally, that's pretty much his party piece, but she's still gotten the upper hand. She uses his own cloth extensions against him, and controls his movements to better favor her position. He almost loses even, but one of his bandages that she hadn't spotted manages to get up close to Launch and tickles her nose, which causes her to sneeze, giving him a very valuable opening to defeat her. Now, despite the power difference between her blue and blonde form being nothing, it was identical, that 2-second opening was enough to stop Launch altogether. And yeah, Blue Launch did have a little bit of a cry about that. It was a good thing she wasn't in her blonde form, otherwise I think Bandages would be in a world of trouble, even if outside of the ring. The next one to fight is Mark, and he is able to defeat Bandages without really that much effort, having noticed how he fought and could understand what to do next. He even goes so far as to the point where he covers his nose when in close quarters, which makes Bandages curse. After that, he's going to fight Spike the Devilman. Spike is giving our hero a very hard time, having seen how clever he could be, what with Bandage's tactic, and as he prepares the Devilmite beam, Miguel, who had been watching from the side, decides to step in, shielding Mark from the attack, as she sees this as an unfair advantage, and she is unaffected by the blast. Mark is shocked by not only her being unharmed by this, but also her protecting him. It made actually his heart skip a beat. But he asks her not to interfere again. Nicely, of course. The Devilman is pretty shocked as well. But he then realizes that, oh, Miguel, her heart must be pure, without much evil, and so the beam hadn't worked. It only works against evil people. Surely this tempestuous boy would be more hateful, and it would actually do something to him, and he prepares another beam. And this time, Mark rushes through the beam, thinking he has a plan, and he reveals also, sure enough, he's too unaffected. Curses! This completely surprises Spike, who gets punched hard by Mark, but is still standing. Seeing two pure beings like Mark and Miguel makes him just forfeit the fight. What's the point? And this is much to Baba's dismay. She chastises him outside of the ring very loudly so everyone could hear for giving up like that. But Spike just shrugs and says, what's the point in fighting someone who's completely unmoved by his signature attack? What else could he do? He hadn't been expecting to fight two goody-goodies at once. After having a bit of a sulk and seeing Roshi chuckle in the distance, Baba decides that now is the time to roll up her sleeves, make her brother suffer. She's going to use her strongest warrior. That will show her brother what for. He won't be expecting this. Roshi says it's Bocksa's turn to fight, and Baba smiles.
Perfect.
He gets introduced to a mysterious lady with a fox mask and a tail who bows politely. Bulma gasps, but Baba looks to her and tells her, in motion, not to say anything. She is still transfixed though at said tail, which greatly resembles the one her brother used to have as a little child.
No way.
There is something weird about this fighter, definitely, and it's something familiar. Even Bocksa is starting to get a little bit suspicious of this fighter. He doesn't remember her fighting style at all, but he still somehow knows how it works, how to counter it. And while she is kind of strong and is giving him a big fight, he can also feel that she's holding back, and he is resenting this opponent, toying with him, but yet, it's not meant to be derisive, it's not meant to be malicious. She seems to be coaching him in a way. Still though, she isn't beyond exploiting some of his weaknesses, but not in a way that would knock him off and out of the ring. After the last few fights, this duel almost feels reassuring, brings back his joy even in fighting, which had been rocked a lot with the whole Red Ribbon Army escapade. For the rest of Roshi's pupils, it slowly dawns on them, starting to become clear who this fighter is, that Baba's goals aren't to make her fighter win against their friend. No, she's teaching Bocksa a lesson, giving him an opportunity. After a while, Bocksa is given a little challenge. He has to take the mask off of the fighter. She is pointing to her mask and then does a yanking motion to make clear to Bocksa what to do, and he nods. He does fail quite a few times, with the fighter tripping him up with her tail a few times. Finally, he manages to figure out the plan and the pattern to fake out tripping and jumps high up into the air, kicking the mask off of her face. And this face feels even more familiar. But he's never met that lady before. Had he?
Well, that was pretty impressive, young Bocksa. I forfeit.
She smiles. Only now our heroes notice the halo above her head. She wasn't a fighter of this world like the others. She was from another world. Bulma is the only one that is able to do the math and whispers to herself.
Is that? It was a great honor to face with you, strong lady.
Bocksa grins.
Where I come from, I'm hardly a strong lady, but thank you. You're very nice. My name's Gine. Oh, cool! You know my name! That's my sister Bulma over there, and my best friends Mark, Krillin, Yamcha, Launch, Upa, Puar, Oolong. Oh, and that's Miguel. She can sing real well. And there's Master Roshi. They're all strong, and I've got a good team behind me. You can tell.
Bocksa is really happy to really be gushing over his friends, and Gine smiles at him. Although some of the more perceptive characters could see a tinge of sadness in her eyes. It's almost as if she knew she couldn't stay much longer.
Sister, huh? That's good. It seems to me you're happy here. I'm glad. It pleases me no end that you have a family behind your back. Now, I'm afraid I think it's time I have to go. Go? Go where? To the other world. I don't belong here anymore. I died many years ago. The fortune teller was nice enough to allow me to come and have this meeting. I'm really glad I took the invitation. Oh? Well, why did you want to meet me?
Gine hesitated for a moment.
To check up on you, firsthand, and see how you're doing. I've heard a lot about you.
Bocksa shuffles his foot and looks a little sheepish.
I'm not all that special, you know. I've been losing a lot recently. But I've never given up, though. I will become a better fighter and a great mechanic. I'll show everyone. That you will. That you will.
She ruffles his hair and looks at Bulma, nodding. The young girl nodded back, as if they understood from afar. There was like some non-verbal agreement between the two of them, and after that, the training with Baba's pupils was complete. Though for some reason, after that, Bocksa found himself missing Gine. He felt some sort of connection with her that he couldn't explain, and nobody would tell him about the identity of her, but it kept racking his brain all the time. He decides that he needs some time alone, and Roshi decides to give him some special training. Mark and Bulma aren't really sure that this is a good idea to do this after the last time, the traumatic experience that Bocksa had had to endure recently, but Roshi calms them down. The boy needs it to grow. He won't be in any danger though, he would make sure of it. He's not using Nimbus or any other means of transportation. He's got to go it alone. He needs to toughen up, and so Bocksa saves the village consequently from terrors and plagues and defeats the Sky Dragon. His travels also take him to a village that is terrorized by dozens of demons, and apparently the local Princess Misa has been kidnapped by these monsters. Bocksa decides to help and fights the demon tyrant Shula, and not only that, but he also meets two con men, Tenshinhan and Chaozu, who try to scam the villagers by pretending that Inoshikacho is a dangerous monster. The two swear revenge against Bocksa, who then wanders off into the wilderness. This of course worries his family greatly, but Roshi says to Bulma many times, as well as her parents, that he is sure that the boy will return in time for the tournament. They try to prompt the boy to come home right now, but Bocksa assures them that he's alright. The rest of his friends are training, with Dr. Briefs doing what he can to pass the time and get his mind off of things, providing his inventions to help them all. They all need Bocksa, and much to Mark's shock, Miguel decides to stick around throughout all of this training, as the team is giving her real inspiration to write new songs. 3 years later, we see Bocksa swimming across the world to arrive at the tournament grounds. His parents are also there, so the reunion is pretty sappy understandably. Everyone is happy to see the boy, who really seems like he's toughened up quite a bit. Roshi turned out to be correct. However, there's one thing that seems to be worrying him, and that's the appearance of Master Shen, who is revealed to be Roshi's eternal rival. And Bocksa is equally shocked to discover that he knows his 2 prize students. I guess they'll have a shot at their revenge sooner than expected. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. So what do you folks think? Will Tenshinhan and Boxer's rivalry be even greater than before? How will Gine's exposure to him change the kid going forward? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!